This is Trachycarpus princeps. I've grown this on for several years now. Came from my old garden, always been in a pot. Developed a bit of a lean at a younger age, but I straightened it up when I potted it on and it seems to be growing well now. It's a little bit early in the season, but just dug a hole, ignore the weeds, ready for it to go into. I'm not unduly worried about planting it now. It's been outside all winter. It's not been in a greenhouse, mollycoddled, so being in the ground would actually protect the roots from frost more. So here it is. I've just taken it out of the pot. If you look down at the root system, there's some lovely roots. That's just the right size. That is the roots. I'll tease them out very slightly as I plant it, but them roots will get away lovely out into the surrounding soil, and hopefully it'll settle in fairly quickly. If you look carefully on top of the pot, you'll see there's Trachycarpus seedlings springing up everywhere. They're not princeps, they're from my previous garden seeds that have fallen from above into the pot, and they germinate readily. So I've now popped the Trachycarpus into the hole. As you can see, I haven't disturbed the soil too much around the edges. What I want the roots to do is to find their own way out and secure itself in. If you'd notice the height, I'm putting it planting and at the same height it was in the pot with the surrounding soil. What you don't want to do when planting palms, don't hump the soil up around the trunk. That won't do them any good at all. In fact, it could cause basal rot. Here it is, it's now in the ground. If we take a little look above, I've filled in all around it, gently firmed it in. I put the rock back that I removed to actually get space. I've done a little bit of weeding just to tidy things up a bit, and left the Trachycarpus seedlings in that were in the top of the pot for now. I'll remove them at a later date. I'll just pull back so you can get a full view. So it's now sitting in the bed next to Mahonia soft caress. There's a Fatsia Edward Needham form on just behind it. What I'm trying to do with that is trying to create a bit of a canopy at present, so I'm not going to let it go out too much from the sides, more higher up. So there it is. I'm convinced it's better off in the ground than it was in the pot. It's been out all winter. I definitely wouldn't recommend planting newly bought palms, especially if they've just been imported into the country, or you've kept them in a polytunnel or greenhouse over winter because they're not used to the cold. Like I said earlier, this one's been out all winter in its pot, so to be sitting in the ground now, the roots are actually better insulated than they were when they were in the pot. The soil is slightly warmer now than it was in March, and it will continue to warm up, hopefully getting it off to a good start to the growing season. If we take a quick look from slightly further round, you can see the lovely white underneath of the leaves, which sets this apart from other Trachycarpus. Hopefully as it grows in years to come, I'll be able to walk under it, look up and see the white underneath of the leaves. I'm looking forward to it. Next on the list to go in the ground sooner rather than later is this rather sorry looking specimen. Unfortunately, it's languished in a pot for many years. If we can just zoom in underneath, what it's actually done is it's been in the pot so long it's pushed itself up out of the pot. If you can see the roots protruding down there. I simply didn't have room in my other garden, and I should have repotted it years ago, but it was tucked up the back out of the way, and if I'm honest, I forgot about it. So it's now going to have a little treat and be put into the ground. That's the hole dug ready. I haven't opened it up too much because I'd like to keep the soil tighter around it so the roots can find their own way out and stabilise it. Talking of roots, as I said earlier, when I was planting the Trachycarpus, I like to plant at the same depth they came out of the pot. This poorly looking specimen is the exception. I'm going to plant this down. If you look carefully, you can see where the roots leave the trunk. I'm going to attempt to plant it in, so the trunk is now at the top of the soil level again. Hopefully this will stabilise it and let it settle in its new position. So I've just removed the palm from the pot. As you'll see, even though the roots seem to be poking out of the soil, it's actually got a lovely root system further down. If I just turn round a bit, you'll notice this one also has a Trachycarpus seedling growing out the side of the pot, and on this occasion, seeing as that's a larger one, I will remove it before planting. So as I said, I've prepared the planting hole. I'll put a few chicken pellets underneath it, and then I'll drop it into the hole and we'll see what we got. Now my little garden helper has appeared, who's going to be a big help. This is Ruby. She's just had a sniff of the organic poultry manure, and now she's off to investigate the new arrival over on the right, which is the Trachycarpus. And now back to the palm. So I'm now going to infill carefully around the base, and we'll come back and have a look, see what it looks like once I have. And here it is in the ground. If we go down and look at the trunk, you can see I brought the soil level up to where the trunk should be. Add a nice root system under those scrawny looking roots. I'll gently infill between the roots, and what I shall do in a moment is just get a watering can, make sure the soil is washed right between there, so the roots are then in good contact with the soil. When planting plants, it's important, even at wet times of year, to always water them, because what you're doing is filling any voids in the soil where you've firmed it in that hasn't filled with soil. You don't want roots dangling in fresh air, because roots dangling in fresh air die. I've now given the palm a good watering, well, two in fact. I've fed the soil right round the roots where the void was, as you can see, so it's now sitting in its correct position in the soil. The yellow leaves, or the yellowing leaves around it, it's nice and green in the middle, as you'll see. The yellowing leaves around it I'm going to leave. I could remove them, but I think they're still giving a little bit of goodness to the plant, so I'll leave them for now while it settles in. Also on the wall here, that I'll just pick up and show you. Bear with me. If you can see that. That is the Trachycarpus seedling that I removed from the pot. All I want to highlight is, look at the root system on that compared to the top growth. I'll just put it down. When you buy palms, people like to buy big. It's okay buying big, but a lot of those are field grown. They dig them up, chop the roots nearly to the trunk, and then pot them up and sell them on. If you plant little, this size, or actually I'll grow that on a pot, in a pot for a little while longer, you get a really good root system. So a plant like that, planted with a few inches of trunk, compared to a plant with a foot of trunk, a plant like this will probably overtake the bigger plant within 5 years. So that's a volcano in the ground and planted. Waiting in the wings, I have another Chamaerops, if you can see that. That's not going to be planted today. That's spent the winter in my insulated greenhouse, so that'll be a shock. I'm going to leave that until the weather warms and the soil warms right up, maybe in a month or two before I put that in. That's going to go in the front here. That's Cerifera. It hails from the Atlas Mountains from memory, and although it looks very green at the minute, should take on a bluey hue once it's exposed to the sun. Just a quick look behind. I moved the big one here from my old garden. I'm just trying to think, 8 or 9 months ago maybe. I got as much root ball as I could. It was quite a struggle to get it out. Seems to have made it through the winter all okay. There's some browning of the leaves, but if you look at the top there, there's plenty of new fronds emerging which look quite healthy. I think at the bottom it looks even more healthy where the suckers were coming up. They look nice and lush and green still. I was expecting it to struggle somewhat. I moved another quite large one into the front garden, which is nearly totally defoliated, whereas this one seems to be soldiering on, which is good. So that about covers the plant and palms today. See you next time.